As companies make plans to return to work, they're using tools to track just how many people are in the building. We're going to ask the CEO of Density about the technology needed to do it. All right, the pandemic has completely altered the idea of the shared workplace. So what does the office of the future even look like? Andrew Farah is the co-founder and CEO of Density, which helps companies measure how building space is used. And Andrew joins me live. Great to see you.
You too, Allison.
So this is one of these timely discussions because I think this is being talked about at just about every company across the board, as companies are really pondering the return to work. Density was founded in 2014. I'm curious to hear what problem you were trying to solve then when the company was founded and how the pandemic has changed the focus.
Well, when we started, we were just trying to figure out how busy our favorite coffee shop was. It was a rather lazy problem, I guess. But if you've ever had to go through upstate New York winters, it's pretty difficult walking 5 blocks through 3 feet of snow with -10 with the wind chill and then hitting a 20-minute line at a coffee shop. So, that was quite some time ago, but we quickly realized that if you can understand how many humans are using a space inside of a coffee shop, there's no reason you can't do that for other space types. And today we work with some of the largest organizations in the world deploying a precision system for understanding the anonymous use of physical buildings, particularly in offices and workplaces.
How has the pandemic, though, changed that focus? Because now it's very different than 2014 or even 2019 was in what your business does. What has the pandemic done to impact what you do in your business?
So, what our systems do and how it works is something that had been modernizing buildings for some time prior to the pandemic. What happened when the pandemic arrived that was rather stark was it turned everybody's attention to physical space, or at least a portion of our industry's attention to physical space. And CFOs, COOs started turning to VPs of real estate and asking, how many people are going to come back? And the answer was, we're not entirely sure, but we've done some surveys. Utilization rates, at least by our numbers, were lower than 1% in pretty much every industry, at least for those that could work from home. Today, the next logical question was, well, if we didn't know, today, do we have any idea before the pandemic? And the answer was, we don't really know, but we have some surveys. That is now changing, and what's going to be happening over sort of the next 3 to 4 years is that some of the largest organizations in the world with tens of millions, hundreds of millions, in some cases, billions of square feet of space are all of a sudden going to start to become aware of the humans in them. Now, the big question is whether or not people deploy camera-based technology or anonymous by design, anonymous at source technologies like densities. And I think, at least in our case, we believe very much that there's a lot of space where people have a reasonable expectation of privacy. And in those spaces, we tend to help a lot of organizations understand their actual needs and their actual use.
Yeah, how do you counter those privacy concerns, though? Because technology can be obviously intrusive.
Well, we encourage folks to ask vendors like us to please show me what your sensor sees. And in our case, what you see is 3-dimensional depth data. So there's no gender, no age, no ethnicity, there's no PII. There are a lot of camera-based technologies that have various features like signs of life or things where they're taking photographs of whether or not someone's at their desk. And I would say when you ask a sensor vendor, what does your device see? It's really clear whether or not it's a camera. So sort of a good device to figure out whether or not you're deploying something that may invade privacy. In our case, because it's anonymous at source, we tend to be embraced by cultures as opposed to pushed out.
Now, Density raised another $25 million in April, bringing total capital raised to $100 million. Do you see an IPO in your future?
An initial public offering is very much a financing event. I know that we celebrate that, particularly in startup, but for us, I think the reason we've raised the capital we've raised really has to do with trying to stay focused on measuring how all physical space is used and doing so in a way that doesn't invade privacy, has very high degrees of precision, and allows you to make what seem like obvious decisions about allocation of space, design of space, consolidation of space that you don't need, avoidance of leases that you don't need. These are all things that can happen once you measure it. I think the Peter Drucker quote was, you can only manage what you measure, or something to that effect. We have been building buildings for thousands of years without knowing how they get used. That's insane. But that's changing. And I think our intent is to be well capitalized enough so that you don't have to worry about which sensor you deploy, meaning you don't have to buy lots of different products and sort of stitch them together. Instead, you can go to one standard platform for measuring how space is used. And we can just kind of tell you, if you want to understand conference rooms, if you want to understand cafeterias, if you want to understand workstations, we can do all of that sort of under one house. And that requires a strategy that is vertically integrated, as opposed to one that is sort of piecing together a variety of vendors' technologies. And the last thing I'd mention is, we manufacture all of our product in the United States and at scale, and export our systems to over 32 countries. And so we think by sort of managing and tightly controlling the experience of both the software and the hardware, it makes it a lot easier to achieve what we think is, the real world equivalent of the Marauder's map from Harry Potter, which is really exciting. I guess without the little names that sit next to the feet.
I hear you. All right, Andrew Farah, CEO of Density. Great talking with you.
Thank you.